You ever hear someone say something so casually, so innocently, that later it haunts you because of how cruelly ironic it turned out to be? That's what happened with my wife. She used to say it all the time, smiling, eyes sparkling, "I love surprises, birthdays, anniversaries, little gifts, spontaneous trips." I lived for that line. I thought it meant I was making her happy. I thought it meant she cherished the effort, the thought, the little gestures that said I saw her, I loved her, I wanted her to feel special. But later, when the mask cracked, when the truth started dripping through the cracks she thought she'd sealed, I couldn't shake that line. I love surprises, because in the end, the biggest surprise wasn't flowers or jewelry or a weekend getaway. It was the one I handed her, right in front of her boss, the man she thought I'd never suspect. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'd been married 9 years, long enough to know each other's quirks, long enough to settle into routines. I used to think comfort was the reward of marriage, that easy rhythm where you don't have to explain yourself because the other person just knows. We had that, or at least I thought we did. She was ambitious, always had been, career-oriented, sharp-driven. I admired that about her. When she landed a promotion at work, I was the one popping champagne. When she came home exhausted but glowing after a big presentation, I was the one rubbing her shoulders, telling her how proud I was. So when she started working late more often, I told myself it was just the next level of her career. Long nights, high stakes, proving herself. I cooked dinners, left them warm for her in the oven. Sometimes I'd wait up, sometimes I'd fall asleep on the couch. She'd come home, kiss my forehead, whisper she was sorry for being late. I wanted to believe her, but belief starts to fray when the little details don't add up. One night, she came home late, said she'd been with her boss prepping for a big client meeting. I nodded, told her it was fine. The next morning I saw a charge on our card from a restaurant. 2 entrees, 2 drinks, not the office, not takeout. I asked her about it. She smiled, said the client meeting was actually over dinner. She looked me right in the eye when she said it. Something in my stomach turned. Not because I thought she was lying right away, but because of how easily she said it. No pause, no stumble, just smooth, like she'd already practiced the answer. That was the first time I wondered. The second time, she came home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I asked about it. She laughed. "Oh, my boss wears too much aftershave. He leaned over my desk. Must have rubbed off." She laughed like it was ridiculous I'd even noticed. The third time was worse. She got a text late at night. I happened to see the notification light up on her phone. "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about it." She snatched the phone up before I could read more, said it was a work emergency. Then she turned off notifications completely. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding. Every instinct screamed at me, but when I brought it up the next day, she looked at me with wide eyes and said, "You're being insecure. You always jump to conclusions. Don't you trust me?" That's the cruelest trick about betrayal. It makes you question not just the other person but yourself. For weeks I tried to believe her. I tried to swallow my doubts, remind myself she was loyal, that I was being paranoid. I planned dates, suggested weekends away, tried to reignite what felt like it was slipping. She smiled, she played along, but her eyes, they were somewhere else. And then the universe handed me the truth in the most ordinary, unplanned way. She borrowed my car one afternoon, said hers needed servicing. She had to get to a lunch meeting. I tossed her the keys. No big deal. That night I went to grab something from the glove compartment and found a folded receipt wedged inside. A fancy restaurant, 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, lunch for 2. The signature at the bottom wasn't hers, it was his, her boss's name. My hands shook holding that paper. The ground shifted beneath me. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It wasn't paranoia. It was proof. I didn't confront her right away. Something in me snapped cold. I realized if I accused her too soon, she'd deny it. She'd spin it. She'd make me the insecure husband, the paranoid fool, and she'd laugh. God, that laugh. The one that made me feel small. No, I wasn't going to give her that chance. So I started watching, quietly. I tracked her late nights. I checked the card statements. I noted the excuses. Each one lined up perfectly with the man she swore was just her boss. And then I went further. I hired someone, a private investigator. It wasn't easy making that call. It felt like betrayal of my own values, snooping into the life of the person I was supposed to trust most. But what do you do when the person you love turns trust into a weapon? The PI was efficient. A week later, he had photos. My wife, her boss, not in the office, not at a client meeting, at restaurants, at a hotel bar, slipping into a building together, laughing like teenagers. When I saw those photos, it felt like the final nail. I sat there in my car staring at them, my throat tight, my eyes burning, and I thought about every moment I'd ignored my gut. Every night I'd waited with dinner. Every morning I'd told her I loved her while she was thinking of him. And then something in me shifted. The grief gave way to something else. Not rage, not despair. Strategy. She loved surprises, didn't she? She'd said it 1,000 times. Well, I was going to give her one she'd never forget. The plan came together piece by piece. I didn't tell her I knew. I kept smiling, kept playing the role. I even encouraged her when she said she had another dinner with her boss coming up. That's great, I said. You work so hard. I'm proud of you. But behind the scenes, I was moving quietly. I printed the photos. I copied the receipts. I gathered the texts I'd managed to screenshot before she locked me out. I assembled a file. Neat, organized, undeniable, and then I found out the date, the dinner. A client dinner, she said. With her boss. With other executives. Perfect. That was when I decided how I'd do it. Not screaming. Not throwing things. Not private confrontation where she could twist it back on me. No, I was going to hand her the truth in the very setting where she thought she was most in control. She loved surprises, so I'd surprise her, and this time, it wouldn't be roses or jewelry, it would be divorce papers. I remember the night of that dinner so clearly it feels branded into me. She got ready with a kind of excitement I hadn't seen in months. Makeup perfect, her favorite perfume, the dress she always wore when she wanted to impress. She twirled once in front of the mirror, laughing. "What do you think?" I smiled. "You look incredible." And I meant it. Not because I was in awe of her beauty, but because I knew beauty can be deceptive, and tonight it would betray her. We drove together. She said it was a big night, lots of important people, the kind of dinner that could make or break a career. She wasn't wrong about that. The restaurant was one of those high-end places where the servers wear suits and the menus don't have prices. She walked in like she owned the place, her hand brushing mine briefly before pulling away, as if already switching into professional mode. And then he appeared, her boss, the man whose name was on the receipts, the man in the PI's photos, the man I'd watched her laugh with while I sat at home waiting. He greeted her with a smile a little too wide, a handshake that lingered too long, eyes that betrayed far more than professionalism. He turned to me. "You must be the husband." I shook his hand. Firm, too firm. My eyes never left his. "That's right." He smirked, like he knew something I didn't. But that's the thing. He didn't know I had already flipped the script. We sat at the table. Wine was poured. Small talk buzzed around us. Her, him, a couple of junior associates. I played along, asked polite questions, laughed in the right places. I don't think I've ever performed so well in my life. But under the table, my hand rested on the folder tucked neatly against my leg. Divorce papers. Proof. Everything I'd gathered. Waiting. She leaned toward me once, whispering, "Thank you for coming tonight. It means a lot." I looked at her, smiled faintly and said, "Of course, you know I love surprises." She laughed, not catching the weight in my tone. The night went on. Courses came and went. They exchanged glances when they thought no one noticed. He brushed her hand once, quickly, like a thief stealing contact. My stomach churned, but my face stayed calm. And then the moment came. Dessert had just been served, the table alive with chatter. When I stood, my chair scraped lightly against the floor. Everyone turned to look at me. I raised my glass. "I want to make a toast." Her face lit up, surprised. She loved theatrics, loved attention. "Oh," she said, her eyes sparkling. I nodded. "To my wife. She's always said she loves surprises." She smiled, touched her glass to mine, oblivious. And then I set the folder on the table. The room went silent. Her smile faltered. She looked at the folder, then at me. I slid it toward her. So I thought I'd surprise her. Confusion rippled across her face. She opened it. The first page stared back at her. Divorce papers. Signed. Dated. Official. Her hand froze on the paper. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her eyes flicked from the page to me, wide with panic. He leaned forward, frowning. "When you think a marriage is a cover for your little affair." Her colleagues gasped. One of them dropped his fork. The server froze mid-step, unsure whether to move or vanish. She tried to speak. "This isn't. It's not." But then she flipped to the next page. Photos. Her and him. Outside restaurants. Entering hotels. His hand on her back, her smile wide, her eyes glowing. The color drained from her face. Her boss stammered. "This is inappropriate. Inappropriate." I cut him off, my voice steady but sharp. "You're her boss. You're married. She's married. And yet here we are. You think it's inappropriate that I brought the truth into the room. You've been parading your affair like a badge of honor, and you thought no one would notice. Well, surprise." The word hung in the air, heavy, final. She stood suddenly, the chair clattering behind her. "We should talk about this in private." "No," I said calmly, my voice carrying. "Not private. You wanted to laugh at my suspicions, to make me feel crazy. You told me I was paranoid. You told me to trust you, and all along, this is what you were doing. No, it doesn't get to stay private anymore. You love surprises, remember. This is your surprise." Her eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. She reached for me, desperate. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I'll end it. It was a mistake." I stepped back. 9 years of marriage, and you traded it for hotel rooms and lies. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Repeated, planned, hidden, and now it's over. The table sat in stunned silence. Her boss shifted uncomfortably, his face pale. One of her colleagues muttered something about HR, under their breath. I picked up my glass again. drained it, and set it down. Enjoy your dinner. Then I walked out. No shouting, no scene, just the weight of silence and truth crashing down on them. Outside, the night air hit me like a wave. My chest was tight, my hands shaking, but there was clarity in every step I took. For the first time in months, I wasn't drowning in suspicion. I wasn't being laughed at, belittled, made to feel insane. I had taken control of the story. The days after were chaos. She called, she texted, paragraphs upon paragraphs, promises, apologies, begging. I didn't respond. She even showed up at the house once, pounding on the door, screaming that I was destroying everything. I stayed inside, calm, watching her through the window, realizing she still didn't understand. She had destroyed it long before I ever put pen to paper. Her boss tried to smooth things over at work. It didn't work. The photos made their way to HR. He was demoted, then quietly pushed out. She kept her job, but her reputation shattered. People whispered. People looked. She hated it. And me, I filed the papers officially. Divorce finalized in months. Clean, sharp, final. I rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, but I rebuilt. Friends who doubted me apologized. Her family reached out, some furious at her, some awkwardly silent. My family told me they'd always had a bad feeling, but through it all I kept hearing that line in my head. I love surprises, and I realized she was right. Surprises define us, but not the ones we expect. Not the gifts, or the dinners, or the getaways. The real surprises are the truths we think are hidden, the moments that unravel everything we thought we knew. She said she loved surprises, and in the end the biggest surprise was the one I handed her, across a crowded dinner table, in front of the man she risked it all for. Divorce papers, proof, freedom, and I'll never forget the look in her eyes when she realized this was the one surprise she'd never recover from.